Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. It's my pleasure this morning to review another legal novel which has come to us from Bluemark Publishing, Bluemark Books. Toby Fontaine sent me this book and I said yes, it'd be definitely a book that we would like to look at. It's called Flack's Last Shift and it's been written by Alex Wade. It comes to us from quite an interesting area, that is the duty lawyer on a newspaper. And I've always found I have met people in this particular area of practice, and it's an interesting area because of the power of newspapers and what in fact the person does, because it's a pretty stressful job. Anyway, I'm not going to give a lot of information out about this book. We don't review novels very often, but I wanted to do so with this one. Now, Elizabeth has written the main review on this occasion, and so I'm going to add my own little bit into it. So it comes from both of us, but it's primarily her review. And she gave it the title Where Law and Journalism Meet, a new newsroom novel about a Fleet Street lawyer and the traumas of his past. Now let's just have a look at the book first, because Elizabeth did like it, and I do too, I must say. I thought it was rather interesting. You can see there's the spine and there's the back. It has all the little red signs of people checking your copy. There we go. The inside back cover, again, lots of editing going on. And there. By the way, editing is very important, even when I do these reviews. It's amazing what you miss. So it's always good to have a second pair of eyes. There's some permissions to quote various things right at the back of the book. Then there is an acknowledgements. Now, I don't want to give too much away. I'm not going to with these books, because frankly if you do it spoils it, I think. Anyway, that's the front page. He's written some other books, Alex Wade, and For Those Who Toil by Night is whom this is dedicated to. And you've then got the contents, and then part 2, more contents, part 4, and so forth. And as I said, I'm not going to say a lot about this. 4:05 p.m. Night Lawyer's Office. It's a little bit like some of these American TV programs which are very dramatic, but it is dramatic. I mean, if you've ever been in a newsroom, it's great fun, but I mean, you can just imagine the stress of getting all of this out. Anyway, let's talk about this book. And as I say, I don't want to give that much away because you want to read it for yourself. Toby's produced an excellent publication here, and Alex has written it beautifully, and I think you can really feel what is happening. So this is what we say, or rather what Elizabeth says, and I back up. Flack is not a hack. He has an abiding love of journalism, but he is not a journalist, he is a lawyer. Specifically, he is what is known as a night lawyer. For those who aren't quite sure, a night lawyer is a strange sort of fish, or night owl actually, who prowls nocturnally and works punctiliously on a major newspaper to make sure that said newspaper doesn't get sued for something libelous or generally actionable that's scheduled to appear in print the next morning. Rather than damage limitation, this is damage prevention. Lawsuits can be, of course, expensive. Now, with his sharp eye, incisive mind and impressive legal credentials, Oxford-educated Harry Flack has saved his newspaper tons of money. But now, with decades of experience behind him, having frequently rescued his paper from financial ruin over the years, Flack must retire. And this is a debut novel from lawyer and journalist Alex Wade, and it's the saga of Flack's angst-ridden last shift on his beloved Fleet Street broadsheet. The Record, Fleet Street being the general name for the place where journalists work, although they're no longer in Fleet Street, I hasten to add, because they've moved about a bit. But more than that, the book that is, it is about past traumas that have affected Flack's life, and not for the better. Looking retirement in the face, Flack, as Wade puts it, must go home and confront the loneliness of his life. So you've got a lot of personal stuff here, just the sort of stuff they like to do on telly. Anyway, as Wade puts it, he's got to go home and confront the loneliness of his life. And he has shared with his boss, says Wade, an undying love of print media, a love which was happy to speak its name and which would withstand all, even the internet. You see, we get the internet coming in pretty quickly. But Flack also has another love which has destroyed him. Dig deeper into this curious yet compelling novel and you discover via flashbacks why Flack, when young, suddenly abandoned his lucrative law career and the promise of a partnership to become a night lawyer. Yes, he loves newspapers, which he reads by the ton, much to the annoyance of his fiancée Helen, a lawyer at one of those magic circle firms where she ends up photocopying documents all day. Creating a lot more excitement in her life, Helen soon finds it is in the arms of aspiring journalists and accomplished love rat Eddie Conrad. Decent, unsuspecting Flack catches them in flagrante one day and, yikes, shock, horror, he does absolutely nothing except dump Helen and his flat and his law career and every future prospect that could have come with it. Helen herself is shortly dumped thereafter by the ruthless Eddie. Now, of course, this does not bear any relation to any people on this earth that we've ever come across in our lives before. At least that is what it says in the book, and I'm sticking to it. It is at this pivotal moment that Flack discovers his true vocation and sails forth on the uncertain seas of night lawyering, where he becomes almost universally acknowledged, sometimes grudgingly, as one of the most respected Fleet Street lawyers of his generation. I love those phrases, don't they? Fleet Street's finest is what Flack definitely is, but as he reminisces about all this on his very last shift, he's in for another shock. A new editor arrives. It is none other than his old nemesis and hate object, Eddie Conrad. And double yikes, more shock and more horror, Fleet Street hardened Flack now plots to destroy the man who once destroyed him. Killing is too good for the lordly Eddie, the archetypal office bully who loves saying things like, "You all know who I am." Flack's plans for him are arguably a lot worse than death. Now you can see it's rather an interesting story and unfortunately rather true to life sometimes, but nothing to do with any form of newspaper that we would ever dare mention or consider. Now, the book's published by London-based Blue Mark Books, and Flack's last shift is a newsroom thriller with unexpected twists of plot and revealing insights into the fraught and frantic world of the press, particularly those aspects of it where law and journalism meet. And in the author's words, Flack's daily, or well, nightly, task has been to navigate the twin frontiers of the legally acceptable and linguistically permissible, and that's what he does. But Flack doesn't merely hunt down and destroy stray apostrophes, good for him. He must constantly be on the alert for all those juicy exposés which, without a radical rewrite, cannot be published owing to the complete and utter absence of admissible evidence. Flack's career is illustrative of the changes that have taken place in the media in the past quarter century, as the book touches on privacy actions, super injunctions, phone hacking scandals and a lot more, all amid the relentless development of information technology. The phlegmatic Flack, always under pressure and obsessed by his own heartache, emerges as a character with hidden depths, and you're bound to have a lot of sympathy with him. No wonder he just plain loses it, so to speak, at the end of his career. Enough said, read the book. Let me conclude by saying, if you haven't already guessed, the book's title deliberately references Krapp's Last Tape, a mercifully short, thank goodness, play by Samuel Beckett about a failed writer. They're all so dismal, aren't they? But don't let that put you off. The book is a rattling good read, and all the more so if you are or have ever been or desperately want to be a journalist or a lawyer. And with that, read the book, because here it is again. It's not a big book at all. It's quite easy to read. Take it on holiday. There's the spine, there's the back of it. It runs to 200 odd pages. Dust cover inside front, inside back, and then just opening it in the middle. 3:15 p.m. at the record. There we go. There's quite a nice lot of dialogue in it, of course, all the way through. And a nice bit of description. You get the feel very quickly of what of where you might be. I was taken by this because I do remember a programme on television called Lytton's Diary, which Peter Bowles starred in, which was about the old Fleet Street prior to all the changes, and it was a bit like sort of Nigel Dempster's diary, if I can mention that name. However, the important thing about it is that we don't get very much of these types of publication, and when we do, I think they're all the better for reading, because they do give you an insight into very substantial power which the opinion formers in our society have. So can I thank certainly Alex Wade and of course Toby Fountain at Blue Mark for producing Flack's Last Shift. It's an excellent book. Do read it for your summer holidays. Bye bye.